All right, I'm back. Um, I saw what I'm going to talk about today. I saw yesterday when I was at the gym working out. I walk sometimes instead of run. I'm getting older. Um, so it was going to be about it was about tariffs, but I wanted to do the one about how we're building alligator Alcatraz here in Indiana too, in Camp Atterbury. So I did that first yesterday. So I want to talk about. I saw some of it when I was in Europe on vacation, and I saw it for sure on Monday that the president is talking about putting 30% tariffs on the EU. And I've talked in the past how trade is not a zero sum game. And, I'll put these up too. U.S. plays hardball on tariffs deadline as EU battle for a deal. He's talking about 15 to 20% tariff rate. Then there's, again, already having effects of these tariffs. Jeep, Stellantis. We make Jeeps here in Indiana. I believe it's in Kokomo, and we have, I think, a transmission factory around here. So Jeep maker Stellantis warns of a shock 2.7 billion loss as tariffs bite, because they already have tariffs on aluminum, steel, and other things. And then it talks about here, and I'll put this up too, that it's going to crash the European export market. And I don't know why you want to crash a market that you rely on, especially from an ally like Europe. So, again, I've talked about trade not being a zero-sum game. Just because you think there's a deficit and that person got more than I did out of the deal doesn't mean zero-sum. One, we're fortunate enough that as a country as a whole, we can purchase more than we actually produce. If we were a shrinking economy, a slow economy, or a poor country, there's no way we could purchase more than we produce. So the fact that we can do these trade deficits shows that we are growing as an economy. So whenever you do this number, remember, trade's not zero-sum game. So Indiana does have a trade deficit with the EU. We have a $34 billion trade deficit. But remember, it's not zero-sum game. What do we get from the EU? And remember, we're a manufacturing state, right? What's imported? We import active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs, and finished drugs, vaccines, antibiotics, specialty medicines. Lab chemicals used in drug manufacturing and research. Remember that. Biotechnology products such as enzymes and reagents. Remember that again too, please. Why it's important. Indiana is a major pharma manufacturing hub. Indianapolis and surrounding areas often called the pharma capital of the world. Remember, we have Eli Lilly here in Indianapolis, right next to us in Hancock County. Many global pharmaceutical firms with European roots or subsidiaries supply critical ingredients and medicines to Indiana. Ingredients. I want you to remember some of these things, okay? An ingredient is a not finished product. These imports support local drug manufacturing, R&D, and healthcare sectors. R&D is important. We are the leaders of R&D, and we need some of these things to help do our R&D. Main suppliers are Ireland, Germany, Switzerland. And remember, Ireland is our biggest trading partner. I believe I mentioned that in the past. So what else we import? Machinery, vehicles, and auto parts. What's imported? Automobile components, engines, transmissions, electronic control units, ECUs, braking systems, and suspension parts. Parts. A lot of these were parts. I want you, again, I keep saying it, remember some of these things. Industrial machinery, manufacturing equipment, packaging machines, and precision tools. These are things that you use over and over again in your day of business to produce goods, okay? Agricultural machinery and equipment for Indiana's farming industry. Again, you use this equipment to farm and improve your field, your lot size, your harvest. Why is this important? Indiana is a major auto manufacturing state, home to big OEMs and many suppliers. Like I said, Stellantis. EU auto parts and machinery often feature advanced technology and precision engineering critical for Indiana's manufacturing supply chain. Supply chain, as in we take these products and we do something with them. Imports include specialty parts not readily produced locally or materials for assembly. I'll get into that a little bit. If you've studied economics, you get into the Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, and he talks about, and I'll get into that, I'll digress. Main suppliers, France, Germany, Italy. What else we import? Electronics and semiconductors. What's imported? Semiconductors, chips, and wafers used in computers, vehicle, medical devices, and industrial controls. Electronic components like resistors, capacitors, and printed circuit boards, computer hardware, and communication devices. Why is this important? These imports feed into Indiana's advanced manufacturing and tech sectors. Many European countries, especially Ireland and Germany, have major semiconductor producers or have manufacturing facilities. Semiconductors are critical inputs for automotive electronics, medical devices, and consumer electronics made or assembled in Indiana. Again, we're taking these parts and we're doing something with them. Okay? We're not just sitting on them. They're not finished products. Medical and optical equipment, okay? Diagnostic imaging devices, MRIs, CT scanners, ultrasound equipment, surgical instruments and devices, optical instruments including microscopes, lenses, and precision measurement tools, laboratory equipment. Why is that important here in Indiana? Indiana's strong healthcare sector relies on these high-tech imports. Many EU firms specialize in precision medical instruments and optical technology. Again, that'll go back to Adam Smith, and I'll get into that in a little bit. They specialize in these things, okay? These imports complement Indiana's pharmaceutical and biotech industries. Again, we are getting more out of this trade deal in the long run than they are in the up front. All right. And then we have some things that we import agriculturally. We get specialty food products. If you like European cheese, you cannot get European cheese in America. And tariffing them makes it harder for you to enjoy things that you like. And I believe we're in America, we're supposed to get things we like, and we're supposed to have access to things we enjoy. Wines, olive oils. We cannot produce olive oil here in America. I'm sorry, we can't. We don't have the climate. Chocolates, we don't produce chocolate here in America either. Processed foods, okay. Agricultural raw materials, seed, fertilizer, essential oils. There's some things we just can't get here in America. Okay. So, going through all that, when you go back to Adam Smith real quick, he talks about, I don't remember what chapter, it's been a long time since I read that book, but there's a part about it where he talks about, yeah, we can produce these things here in America, and I guess he wrote this back in London. You can produce those things here, but is it cost effective? Let's go back ancient times. Romans made Roman concrete, right? I'm sure the French can make concrete, but Roman concrete was better, and they could produce it more effectively. So why would I waste my time, energy, and resources making something that my ally can make better? I'll trade with them for their concrete, and maybe they'll take my wine. They don't make wine the way I do, so they'll get my wine. So it's using your resources wisely. Why are you going to make concrete less effectively, more expensive, and not as good? They specialize in that, okay? In America, we specialize in high-tech products. We specialize in a information technology country. Anyway, so when you think about that, we import. The trade deficit is mainly because we have imports of intermediary products that are going to get turned into something else. So Indiana is a top manufacturing state. It accounts for about 18-20% of the state's GDP, and we have about 500,000 jobs in this sector. A large portion of the manufacturers, especially in pharmaceuticals, automotive, and electronics, and machinery, use imported intermediate goods as raw inputs. So again, we're importing a lot of raw inputs to get used, produced, into finished products. And then we send those finished products into the U.S. and to the rest of the world. So look, trade's not zero sum. We're getting a good deal. We're getting good products at a reasonable price that we can then go around, finish, and sell for a higher price. Okay? So we estimated, from what I've seen, about 30 to 50% of Indiana's manufacturing output relies on imported intermediary goods. I can't say that word today for some reason. So, example, in pharma, a significant share, 40 to 60% of the active ingredients and raw chemicals come from imports. You can find that at indianapharma.org. So we're taking these raw inputs and producing drugs that we sell to the world and here in the U.S. These are products that we cannot make here, or they're too costly to make here, and it's better to let somebody else do that low margin part of the work, and we take it and turn it into a high margin product. Auto manufacturing, 30 to 40% of auto parts, and that's autoalliance.org. Given Indiana's imports about 58.7 billion in goods from the EU annually, and roughly 30 to 50% of these are intermediate inputs turned into finished products locally, it implies 17.5 billion to 29 billion worth of EU imported inputs could be processed, assembled into finished goods for sale within Indiana each year. A lot of what we're buying is so we can make finished products that we sell, which also support Indiana jobs. They don't just support the jobs of the workers; they support the trade, the adjacent jobs. Your local restaurant, your local store, anything you go do with your family or by yourself. Traveling in the U.S., traveling anywhere. That's money. That's good for that. You're spending money in the economy that you wouldn't have had before had you not had a trade with these other countries. So these finished goods are sold domestically and exported. Indiana's total goods exports in Indiana was 59.9 billion in 2024, with many finished products incorporating EU inputs. The EU as a trading partner is a good trading partner that's letting us be profitable, letting our in just Indiana alone export 60 billion dollars worth of goods. Indiana, I think we have like 6 million people, is a $59 billion economy in exports alone. All right. Many finished farmer products, automobiles, and electronics assembled in Indiana contain EU components. So, and you have to stop thinking this trade as a zero-sum game, because it's not. We're all benefiting it. The Europeans get jobs out of the stuff they send to us because they have workers they're employing. We import it. We hire workers. We have businesses. They get paid. Our workers get paid. And then we sell those products all over the world and in the U.S. for a profit. That is ideal. That's why trade deficits, when you look at them, are not a good metric to use. And I wish the president would stop. And I wish Jefferson Shreve, Jim Bax, and Todd Young would step up and be leaders and try to talk to the president and let him know that these are not how things should be. And that's not a good metric to use. So, and right here it talks about why official trade deficits can be misleading. Official trade statistics, I had to take a lot of notes, and it was a lot to memorize. I hate reading off this stuff to you guys, but it's better this way than me just rambling through. Official trade statistics count gross imports and exports separately without tracking how imported inputs are transformed into exports or domestic sale. So importing 58.7 billion intermediate goods and exporting finished products that incorporate those goods doesn't show up in the balance of trade. But economically, the value is captured in Indiana's manufacturing outputs and exports. So I want you to remember this. Indiana effectively imports inputs but exports value-added products, creating local jobs and economic activity. The trade deficit of 41.6 billion on goods alone does not reflect this complex manufacturing cycle. This is a complex topic that the president and our leaders are taking advantage of you not knowing how all the intricacies of this works. So this is what all that I talked about. When you have tariffs, it's going to hurt us. So in Indiana, we have 520,000 to 527,000 jobs statewide. So it's 16.5%, highest in the U.S. So we have the most manufacturing jobs percentage-wise in Indiana. So I'm in Hancock County, 6th District. Hancock County has 5,000 manufacturing jobs, which is about 11% of the population. Major industries are automotive parts. We have Hitachi, Estimo. We have pharmaceuticals, Elanco, animal health, metal fabrication, labels, HVAC, okay? Import. So in the 6th District, we have 60,000 manufacturing jobs, about 16.2% of the population. Major sectors, automotive and parts, fabricated metals, pharmaceuticals, food manufacturing. So jobs at risk. We have about 400 jobs in Hancock County. Doesn't seem like a lot, but those are our neighbors, our friends, our family. And when you lose 400 jobs, or you lose people spending money in the economy. Okay, Indiana's 6th District alone, that's 4,700 jobs. So both of these numbers I gave you, 400 and 4,700, are, so the 400 is 7.9% of the estimated jobs and 7.9% of the estimated manufacturing jobs for the 6th District total. Okay. So our tariff exposed sectors are automotive parts, steel and aluminum are already feeling that, which is probably why Stellantis is going to have that 2.8, $2.5 billion write off because of tariffs loss. Pharmaceuticals and biotech, machinery and equipment manufacturing. So this is where it gets to the point. Sorry, that trade's not zero sum. It can't. The way they word it here is the president is making it look like that we are suckers and losers because the EU is making so much money on this trade on the trade with us. But that doesn't count. Doesn't take into the fact that what we import are raw materials mainly, and some of the things you import you can't get it here in America. I'm sorry, you're not going to get olive oil from America. I've not seen it. I love olive oil. That's what I used to cook with mainly. I haven't seen it, you know. And then you think about it in the winter. What you can't import, you have to import things. We don't grow vegetables here in the winter. We have to get them from Mexico, right, or South America. So remember, I just want you to remember, trade is not a zero sum game. And I guess I'm taking a long time to explain that. And my wife says I'm more comfortable talking about business topics. As you can see, I can rant for this about forever. Trade's not a zero sum game. If Germany wins by selling us intermediate parts, we win by buying them at a better price and then turning them into more valuable products. We're taking lesser goods, turning them into more valuable products, which means we hire people here in Indiana, which means people want our products, which then we sell to everybody in the world because we are a global economy. So remember, I guess the end of what I want to say is trade. They throw these numbers out of these imbalances of trade as if somehow we're getting screwed over here in America. We're not. We're not. It's not zero sum. You know, we can have both of us can be winners, and not just because one person's not a winner, the other person's not a loser in this global economy like this. So remember, you have a voice, use it.